And thank you very, very much for being with us on this beautiful Monday, which happens to be the second edition of this program, Implementing Artificial Intelligence Optimally in Organizations and Nations. Thank you very much for being with us on Amoge Radio Communications. I remain your host, Tolu Omadara, saying welcome. Well, as we always like to do on art, and I particularly like to do on my programs, we're going to begin by doing a quick recap of some of the highlights from last week's opening episode, right? Again, I am your host, Tolu Omadara, welcoming you on this beautiful Monday, Monday the 27th of April 2026. It happens to be the last Monday of this month, and it is the second edition of this program, Implementing Artificial Intelligence Optimally in Organizations and Nations. So last week, we started by establishing the raison d'etre, so to say, the reason for being for this program, right? What exactly is the motivation from this program? What is the criticality of this program? Why is it very crucial for us to be doing this program, right? Why do we have to talk about implementing artificial intelligence optimally in organizations and nations, right? So we established the raison d'etre of the program last week, and we said that AI is currently not being optimally implemented in most organizations. I'm going to say that again. The research strongly suggests that AI is currently not being implemented optimally in organizations and nations. So there is a lot of buzz about AI, right? There is a lot of buzz about the potential of AI. But one thing we said last week is that there's been a significant gap between the potential and possibilities of AI and the actual performance on AI. The fact that AI is a tool or an innovation with revolutionary capacity is certainly not in doubt. We have established that severally in predecessor programs to this, right? But in predecessor programs to this, we've also shared concerning data like the fact that a significant percentage of organizations surveyed actually indicate that they have not gotten the returns on their AI investment, and that is concerning, right? A significant percentage of organizations surveyed have not gotten the intended benefit of AI, right? The returns on their investments have not been realized, right? And on this particular program, the introductory episode, right, of this program, not the predecessor program, but this particular program, last week we shared another survey that indicated that only about 13% of organizations who set out to implement AI were actually able to implement it as intended. 70% said they had a challenge with implementing AI as intended, right? And that is very concerning percentage. 70% reported having challenges with implementing AI as intended. So if organizations cannot implement AI effectively, then they are not likely to get the return on their AI investments, right? So it is important to ask ourselves, how exactly do we need to implement AI in a manner that will ensure optimum returns on investment? Now, this is becoming even more necessary, I need to say, as the concern and skepticism around AI grows. I need to say that again. This is becoming even more critical as the concern and skepticism around AI grows. And I'll quickly explain what I mean by that, right? Previously, there was a lot of buzz and a lot of interest, a lot of excitement around artificial intelligence, and I think between last year 2025 and this year 2026, there was about a 44% increase in investment in AI. 44% increase. And if you want to compare it to previous years, the statistics are even more staggering. I think in 2022 it was said that there was about $112 billion investment in artificial intelligence in 2022. That's about 4 years ago, right? But by 2025, I think the investment had risen to a couple of hundreds of billions, not $112 billion, but I think about maybe close to, I would say about approximately $600 billion approximately. But by 2026, this year, right, the global AI market is already projected to reach, I think about if I'm not wrong, is already projected to reach about $1 trillion plus, $1 trillion plus. $1 trillion plus. And he said that there was a 44% increase, right, between the investment last year, 2025, and the projected investment this year, 2026. So ordinarily, you'll be saying, oh, why should we be interested in optimum returns on investment? Why should we be interested in ensuring that AI is implemented optimally if there still seems to be this growing interest, right? In 2026 alone, it's forecast to reach $2.2 trillion, about $2.2 trillion, and is expected to be a 44% increase from 2025, right? A 44% increase from 2025. So ordinarily, if you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in 2025, I think close to $1 trillion in 2025, or about $1 trillion in 2025, and you're now saying that in 2026 it's even expected to grow as much as 44% increase. You want to say, oh, Tolu, why then must we be interested in ensuring that it is implemented optimally? After all, the interest has grown. Well, the other side, unfortunately, is that the interest is actually stalling. The interest is plateauing. The skepticism is increasing. Investors are holding back a bit. They're asking questions like, how are we sure that it's not just a buzz? How are we sure that we are going to get the returns expected? How are we sure that the buzz around AI is not going to fizzle out? So more than ever before, it is important to ensure the optimal returns on investment by ensuring that it's implemented as effectively as intended, in order to more or less douse the skepticism and to sustain the interest in artificial intelligence. And I'm talking numbers. I'm talking real verifiable numbers here, right? There is a sustained concern among investors that is likely to lead to a stalling. People are now sort of adopting, the hold position when it comes to investing in AI. So yes, it is likely to increase. The investment will increase. It's projected to increase to $2.2 trillion in 2026. Is expected to increase by about 44% from 2025. Nevertheless, there is also, I'm talking about data as of today, there is also seen to be a stalling, STALLING, a stalling, right, around AI investment. Investors are holding back a bit and asking themselves, is this going to be sustained? So again, it becomes much more important, in my opinion, to ensure that there is a validation, so to say, of the interest in AI, right? It's important to ensure that much as there were hundreds of billions of dollars invested last year, and in 2026 is projected to increase to $2.2 trillion, it's important to ensure that these investments are done as effectively as possible to validate the interests of those who are investing and to douse the concerns of investors who are holding out. This is still your host, Tolu Madara, here on Amoge Radio Communications on the second edition of Investing Optimally. Ensuring that we are implementing artificial intelligence optimally in organizations and nations, right? We are implementing artificial intelligence optimally in organizations and nations. I think I'm going to wrap it up there in terms of the recap for the sake of time. Please, if you have not yet subscribed to our page, our YouTube page, Amoge Radio Communications, you will do well to do so. Invite your colleagues, invite your teams. There's so much information to be gleaned there. It's an encyclopedia of management knowledge, of leadership insights and management knowledge across a plethora of issues. So today we are going to look at implementing artificial intelligence optimally in nations. Implementing artificial intelligence optimally in nations. Of course, you may want to argue, are organizations not part of nations? Yes, organizations are part of nations, but there is also a national dimension, the issue of artificial intelligence, right? Because artificial intelligence is actually some sort of a transformative innovation, right? It's been likened to electricity. It's that kind of innovation that can change and transform organizations and even the globe in fundamental ways. So how do we ensure that we implement artificial intelligence optimally in nations, right? There are several dimensions of this issue, but we are going to look at about 3 key ones. And if time permits, we'll go on to other dimensions. So the first thing we're going to look at is the issue of AI and national competitiveness, right? We're going to look at AI sovereignty in part, but we're going to look at AI and national competitiveness. We're also going to look at AI talent, right? Definitely, we are going to look at AI and reskilling, in other words, AI and workforce development. And then we should also be able to touch on the issue of data centers, right? The issue of data centers, but we're not going to look at data centers alone. We're going to look at it broadly in the context of governance, right? Governance. Now, let me quickly say that the issue of governance is something we dwelt a lot on in the producer program to this. So please, if you are yet to subscribe again, I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube page, right? And you can catch up on some of the episodes we went deeply into last quarter. Last quarter, we looked at developing effective policies for artificial intelligence, economics, infrastructure, and governance, right? So this is why it may appear we are taking governance last. That's because we did a lot on that already. So let's talk a little bit about AI and national competitiveness. How do you implement artificial intelligence optimally in your nation, right? If you're listening to me and you're a policymaker or you're a policy influencer or even you're a policy demander, it's important for you to ask yourself, how do we implement, right, artificial intelligence optimally in nations? The first thing to note is that artificial intelligence has actually become a tool for national competitiveness. I'm going to say that again. Artificial intelligence has become a tool for national competitiveness. And this is where you want to learn to maintain your AI sovereignty. That's the truth, right? Artificial intelligence has become something that nations are using to assert their competitiveness and their sovereignty, right? To expand their competitiveness by asserting their sovereignty. So you need to understand that how you implement artificial intelligence, right, would determine how competitive you would be as a nation. So if you implement artificial intelligence in a manner that compromises your AI sovereignty, you are not likely to be able to compete effectively. I'll say that again. If you implement artificial intelligence as a nation in a manner that compromises your AI sovereignty, you are not likely to be able to maintain your AI national competitiveness. I may want to ask, Tolu, how do we implement artificial intelligence in a manner that does not compromise our AI sovereignty? Well, this is why we are looking at the other aspects, right? So what are the critical components, so to say, of artificial intelligence? When you talk about artificial intelligence, what are the main things that you need to have in order for you to be able to, more or less control your artificial intelligence? Well, first things first, there is definitely the infrastructure part of it, and that is the quote and unquote, almighty data centers, quote and unquote almighty data centers, right? We spoke to it last week and we've been speaking about it on previous programs, and the world is still understanding that data centers constitute a significant portion of artificial intelligence. Why? For you to be able to get a machine to think and behave like a human being and make decisions like a human being and make recommendations like a human being and even demonstrate a level of creativity like a human being, that machine has to have access to significantly large volumes of data, high value, high volume, high velocity data. So this is the data that the machines process and they use to be able to think like human beings, which is essentially what artificial intelligence is. So if you don't have artificial intelligence, if you do not have data centers, you almost cannot have artificial intelligence. I'm going to say that again. If you do not have data centers, you almost cannot have artificial intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence leans significantly, hugely, right, on data centers. Data centers are almost like the oxygen that artificial intelligence breathes. Very, very, very important. Right. So these data centers consume a huge amount of electricity. That's the truth. The kind of electricity that makes even developed countries to want to, more or less like re-strategize around electricity in the age of artificial intelligence. So as a nation, if you cannot establish an infrastructure that gives you a degree of self-reliance where data centers are concerned, it will almost be impossible for you to maintain your AI sovereignty. I'm going to say that again. As a nation, if you do not have a strategy, a national strategy for more or less data center independence, right? A national strategy that enables you to have a significant amount of independence to control your data centers, you almost cannot have AI sovereignty. Right. And why is it important for you to have AI sovereignty? Because AI has matured to a level where it controls even weaponry. We spoke about this in the last quarter's episode, developing effective policies for AI economics, infrastructure, and governance. We talked about how the war in Iran has been significantly impacted by artificial intelligence. Even the war in Ukraine, the Russia-Ukraine war, artificial intelligence has made it easier to produce drones, cheaper to produce drones. Even America's military dominance has been impacted by artificial intelligence because Iran has been able to produce significantly cheaper drones, and America has been responding with more expensive, much more expensive deterrents, and all of that has changed the nuance of wars, military and warlike efforts in the 21st centuries have been significantly impacted by artificial intelligence. So AI sovereignty is not something you want to joke with as a nation at all. It's a weapon on its own. Is that critical? Is that crucial? Is that definitive? Right? So you have to ask yourself, as a nation, what can we do to maintain AI sovereignty? What can we do to control our data centers? What can we do to ensure we are not overly dependent on other nations in order to guarantee a measure of sovereignty that comes from artificial intelligence but spills into other areas, including defense? And defense is just one. There's health technology. Now you hear about robots performing surgeries, impacting the outcomes of health decisions. These are happening right under our noses. It's no longer a future state. It is a future that is here. I don't want to go into education. Artificial intelligence is impacting educational outcomes. Of course, there are all kinds of debates around it. There is a concern that it is limiting the creative thinking abilities of the younger generations because artificial intelligence now does the thinking for them. So you also want to avoid an over-reliance on artificial intelligence at a certain age. You want to ensure that they are using technology in a manner that does not diminish their thinking capabilities. However, on the positive side, if they use artificial intelligence well, it can also enhance their productivity a lot, even in education. So artificial intelligence has become a tool that will enhance your national competitiveness in several dimensions, across several sectors, right? And it's important that as a nation, you take charge of your data sovereignty. It's really, really critical. Now, another thing you want to do, I'll mention one more thing around artificial intelligence sovereignty, and then I'll move on to something else. Also, the chips, right? The chips is another area you want to control. So, artificial intelligence relies a lot on chips, CHIPS. Those chips, a lot of it is being produced today by companies like NVIDIA, and that itself is concerning because it also becomes a weapon. If America says NVIDIA cannot export its chips to a particular nation, then that nation can become AI crippled, right? If I can use that expression. So nations like China are fighting to ensure that they can produce more of those chips by themselves. In fact, they are pushing back by ensuring that the small and medium scale enterprises that they have invested in cannot sign partnerships with American companies in the name of attracting capital that will put them at risk in China. And this is a nation taking charge of its own data sovereignty, of its own AI sovereignty, not just with the data centers, but also with the chips. So that's another thing you want to think of. Now, some countries have the raw materials that are critical to producing these chips too. Some of these countries need to take charge of their own destinies by learning to process this. A lot of these rare earth minerals, unfortunately, are exported in their raw form. This is where I want to challenge nations in Africa, right? They should do what happened, like they should do like a company like Dangote Industries, the Dangote Group did in Nigeria. For a long time, Nigeria will export its oil in its crude form and re-import it in its processed form, putting Nigeria significantly at risk where a critical tool like oil was concerned. And the Dangote Group took that up. And today, Nigeria does not only process its own oil, Nigeria also export oil to other countries, beg your pardon. It's time for us to also look at nations that are currently exporting rare earth minerals, and for them, if need be, to partner with the likes of Dangote Group. I'm calling on Alhaji Aliko Dangote, if he's listening or whoever is connected to him at this point, they should also take responsibility and take charge and go into the processing of rare earth minerals to ensure that we are no longer exporting this either to China or to America or to other countries from Africa, but we're actually processing this and competing more as a nation and as a continent. You may want to say, Tolu, why is this critical? I'll just give you one statistic that is concerning, right? It's already been proven that the worth, so to say, the net worth of some of the top AI companies today, I think it includes the likes of NVIDIA, the likes of, I think, Google, if I'm not wrong. These are companies involved in AI, and I think also Microsoft. It's already been proven that their worth today exceeds that of entire continents, right? It's already been proven that as of today, the AI investment is so narrowed. NARROWED is so uneven, right, that you find a few companies like Apple, NVIDIA, and Microsoft holding, the kind of market value that rivals the GDP, the gross domestic product of entire continents. And so, if this is already happening, if AI is already empowering one single company in a nation like the United States to have a network that rivals that of an entire continent, then it's time for that continent to wake up to use their AI sovereignty in a way that will guarantee economic liberty. I will say that again. If one company, by virtue of investing in technology and AI, is already having a net worth that rivals that of an entire continent like Africa, then it is time for such continents, especially when they have these rare earth materials and so many other things in the raw form, to rise up and accept responsibility to process such and make sure that they are able to compete at the optimal end of the value chain, of the AI chips value chain, of the AI infrastructure value chain, in a way that will ensure that they use AI sovereignty and everything connected to it to claim back and get back their economic liberty. I think I'm going to take a short break here and we'll be back soon. Thank you for being with us.
At Armor Gates Training, we believe professional development should do more than inform. It should transform how people work, lead, and deliver results. That's why we support organizations through conceptual insight, practical learning, and performance evaluation right at the intersection of leadership, strategy, and institutional transformation. Our approach focuses on practical learning format that professionals can immediately apply in their workplace. At Armor Gate, we don't teach theory alone. We equip participants with real-world insight drawn from almost 2 decades of organizational transformation experience. Our programs combine multiple learning methods designed for real-time measurable results. Through seminars, we facilitate deep conversation on key subjects. Using group exercises, participants collaborate, reflect, and think strategically. With case studies, they then sharpened analytical and decision-making skills using real industry scenarios. Through relevant videos, we spark insightful discussions using relatable real-life context. All in all, every participant develops an individual work plan, ensuring the learning turns into real action after the program. Our training programs are hosted in world-class venues across global cities, including Addis Ababa, Nairobi, Mombasa, Cape Town, Dubai, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, London, Florida, and Washington, D.C. Let's work with you to turn learning into your organization's growth. For more inquiries, call +234 807 9574 151 or WhatsApp +1 610 504 6026. Visit www.thearmorgate.org. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Armorgate. Armorgate Training, transforming knowledge, interaction, and growth.
You're welcome back. This is still implementing artificial intelligence optimally in organizations and nations. It's the second episode, and on this second episode, we are looking more at implementing AI optimally in nations. Last week, we looked at implementing AI optimally in organizations. We looked more at the organizations part of it, and today we are looking more at the nations part of it, right? We said we're going to look at 4 aspects: AI sovereignty, about 3 to 4 aspects: AI sovereignty, AI and national competitiveness, and we're going to show how the national competitiveness is linked to the AI sovereignty. We're going to look at AI talent, and then we're going to look at AI and reskilling, in other words, AI and workforce development. I doubt if you're going to be able to go beyond the first 2 today, and next week we will come back and look at how we can use AI talent to, establish our competitiveness as a nation. However, one thing you don't want to forget from today is that you need to implement AI optimally in a manner that secures your sovereignty and guarantees national competitiveness. Now, you may want to ask, well, what about international cooperation? Are there benefits to collaborating? Are there benefits to sharing information? Are there benefits to having an exchange of materials? For instance, why should we not easily export our raw materials if you're going to get back technological support? Well, the truth of the matter is that you want to come to the negotiating table from a position of strength. So I'm not saying that we are not going to collaborate, but for there to be true collaboration, there must be there must be approximately equal partners. For there to be genuine collaboration, there must be, fairly equal partners, right? If one person is holding the longer end of the stick and another person is holding the shorter end of the stick, that's no collaboration. That's a form of oppression. So again, I think that's very important for national competitiveness, right? AI national competitiveness and AI sovereignty to lay the foundation for genuine collaboration. When we know that we are genuinely equal, we are similar, we are operating from a place of similar strength, then it becomes easier for nations to come, and then create global frameworks that will truly be of benefit for the whole of humanity. And I'm saying this because as we speak, unfortunately, there are concerns that because the governance frameworks are lagging behind the technology, the private sector is more or less framing the rules already, right? The private sector is more or less determining the rules already. And we've said this previously, that it's important for legislation. I think this was the last episode of last quarter's program, that it's important for legislation to be ahead of technology. Policy must be ahead of technology. Once that does not happen, the private sector, by its nature, right, by its competitive capitalistic nature, will take advantage of the vacuum and frame the rules, right, influence the rules significantly in a manner that by the time you bring the so-called policies, they may never be able to influence society as we have seen previously. So it's important to ensure that yes, we are laying the framework for international collaborations. We are doing this from a position of strength, from nation to nation. Each nation is coming from a position of strength as much as possible, and together we are creating international frameworks to guide AI's adoption, right? Like I said in the previous program, we spoke a lot about AI and, for instance, pornography, AI, for instance, and unfortunately, unapproved notification, We talked about nations like those in Europe already speaking to this, placing stricter rules on AI companies and ensuring that they know that they'll be culpable for what their AI tools are used for. Unfortunately, in places like the United States, there's still a lot of vacuum around that. In places like the United States, unfortunately, even though the Trump administration said he came up with, or said they came up with a framework, right, a comprehensive national legislative framework, and this national legislative framework would aim to harmonize across the states, because some states are taking the lead when there was a vacuum. Even though they said that, in reality, it appears that this framework is not as harmonized as it seems. It appeared that this framework is actually a lot of, let me not use that word. It appears to be a lot of, would I say clout, C-L-O-U-T, a lot of clout without substance, right? A deep analysis of the framework by some centers is calling to question, how well this framework is actually capable of, still leading where policy and legislation is concerned. A deeper analysis has alleged that this framework is still giving too much power to the private sector, right, to frame the rules, because in reality, the framework does not address the issues deeply. Now, what I want to say is this: as a nation, you have to understand the nature of the private sector. As part of establishing your national sovereignty where AI is concerned, is to ensure that you create that effective balance between innovation and regulation. You must not over-regulate to the point where you disincentivize innovation, but neither must you over-empower the private sector to the point where the people become concerned. Because the reality is that as of today, in places like the United States, people are now so concerned about the tendency of artificial intelligence to be used against their own interests that there is a negative vibe towards artificial intelligence in a number of places, from non-profit centers organizing to protest against data centers taking up electricity, to places where they are protesting the perceived hike in electricity rates, whether it's happened or not. There are concerns and fears about electricity rates rising because artificial intelligence data centers are coming. Generally, all of this is leading to a negativity around artificial intelligence. Does artificial intelligence hold a promise? Yes. But if government does not take genuine charge, because even after this framework was released in the United States some weeks ago, the people still do not see it as being able to balance innovation and regulation. They still see it as over-empowering the private sector. And so because of that, there's still a negative vibe because government has not taken charge. So part of, establishing and maintaining your AI sovereignty is ensuring that you are creating the frame, right? You are creating the policy environment that balances innovation with regulation in a way that one does not choke out the other. We need both. We need innovation, but we also need effective policy, effective regulation that ensures that the private sector is not doing everything without concern for the people, as is the nature of the private sector. And we also need to ensure that the people are not taken care of so much that they also lack or they begin to lose the innovation that they also need. Wow. I think this is where I'm going to draw a curtain on today's edition of the program. Today, we have been looking at implementing artificial intelligence optimally in nations, right? We have tried to look at it from, at least we have, spoken about looking at it from about 3 to 4 perspectives. We're going to look at AI sovereignty / AI and national competitiveness, right? AI and national competitiveness, and also AI sovereignty. And then we will look at AI talent, very, very, very important, and AI and workforce development. That's AI and reskilling, right? I think these are the other 2 aspects that we're going to come back to next week by God's grace. But today is going to be where we call it a day. We've been very happy doing this with you. I'm always happy doing this with you. Hope you will be with us again, same time, same station next week, right? And you can always catch up on the episodes online on our YouTube page. We also look forward to hearing back from you. You are the reason why we do this. Please send us a feedback, contact at thearmorgate.org, drop your comments. We really want to hear what you think about this. And remember, we are always ready, willing, and available to work with you to develop policies around these issues at the national level, as well as strategies at the organizational level. Thank you very much again for doing this with us. I remain your host, Tolu Mudara. This has been Implementing Artificial Intelligence Optimally in Organizations and Nations, episode 2. We'll be back same time, same station next week. Until then, remember to think optimality in your implementation of artificial intelligence at both organizational and national levels. Thank you very much again, and see you next week. Have a good one.
Armorgate, founded in 2008 out of a desire to build transgenerational structures for organizations, institutions, and nations. We have worked with large businesses, international development organizations, and public sector ministries and agencies. Armorgate, our uniqueness is that we do not just work for you, we work with you. For example, we do not leave you to the task after sourcing talent that will help the new hire settle into robust leadership development programs. We are technical experts in advising and supporting institutions on strategy and leadership, artificial intelligence, strategic human resource management, public sector reform, finance, audit and tax, FAT, and strategic communications. We do all this and more out of a desire to transform nations through institutions and organizations. For further inquiries, email contact@thearmorgate.org or call +234 810 999 6666, +234 807 957 4151, and +161 0504 6026. www.thearmorgate.org. Armorgate, building to endure and transforming nations through institutions and organizations.